Hey! Cheer up, bud.
No, it's fucking bullshit, bro. It's working.
I know.
Fucking seconds ago, and the moment we go to do something important,
it'll be alright. I promise.
Yo, your head's chopped off, bro.
Oh, because I'm sitting upright. I love you.
Yo, drop it, please.
Alright.
Bitch about how the week has been.
Hello, everybody. You know what time it is. It's time for another upload of Real Talk Vlogs. This week we have another special guest, guy who's making big waves in the automotive industry amongst Volkswagen and Audi enthusiasts of all type, and several other industries along the way, as he's pushing the limits. But, time to buckle up, turn the radio to 11, and let's dive into this week's upload with our first and most important man of the hour. Because he needs to let some stuff off right now. I see the fire burning in his eyes. Mr. Steve Mellings, how are you doing this evening, sir?
Yo, to full honesty, Jack, I have been better, man. I was super excited about our upcoming guest. And I went and bought a new webcam and a new microphone to, step up my tech game for the, podcast here.
Yeah.
And all of my hard efforts, which we had running, let's say 35 seconds before we started this record.
If that.
Right? And I'm trying to pull up my...
Steve decides to move his camera one more time. I'm just saying you did try to get this huge angle in the dangle thing, and then it dropped out.
I didn't put it huge angle on the dangle. I moved it to the top of the monitor.
Yeah, which is 15 feet away from you.
It is not.
It's like a 70-inch monitor. Don't let this man lie to you.
No, it's like a 40-inch monitor. Why are you trying to tell the world of all the things I own?
I'm not. I mean, dude, I own a 70-inch, but I've owned it for 6 years now. I bought it when I bought my house. It was the best $400 I bought off Best Buy's wall ever. Your phone's autofocusing. That's pretty weird. So, Steve has obviously had a rough week. Discord is giving him problems. He bought some stuff to get it. He's stressing. I'm sorry.
I am stressing, bro. I am mad stressing because now I can't even get my notes to pull up for the podcast. I'm literally having a podcast with you over my cell phone that's laid sideways so that, we can keep being productive. And I can't even pull up my goddamn notes. So I'm having a bad week. And we're just going to ignore all the shit about Printful and how my website is still essentially shut down. And I can't sell anything because,
that sucks.
I did here. This little, the four circles was S4, R, and W, paying homage to the original Audi logo with the four companies that founded the little stuff in there. Yeah, I'm venting. I drew that, and I can't do anything with it. And so, it's not like I'm making tons of money off all the people buying our shirts, like your fine one that you're wearing, and I appreciate your purchase of.
Thank you, sir.
But that's essentially a rare shirt now.
This is my protest to Printful.
Until I get my logo trademarked, or get Audi to be like, hey, you can use that logo that has nothing to do with ours. So, yeah, I might be a bit of a grump, but I'm super excited about our guest, man. He's doing amazing shit in terms of R&D in the performance Audi world. And give me a moment so I can get my notes pulled up, figure out how to get my notes pulled up.
No worries, dude. So on that note, I would guess I'll interject where my week has been, I'll say a 7 out of a 10. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. That beats a 4. I'm going to go with a 4 out of 10 for mine. Cause,
do we have to do it out of, is it actually out of 7? Because it's 7 days out of the week?
I did have a solid 4 good days out of 7. I bought a bumper for the Hibiscus.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Bro,
I'm not super happy about that,
but you got it.
It happened. I did.
You went
so one of the guys that I used to hang out with at H2O back in the day. He's a bit of an Audi aficionado. He's got a Audi branded exotic. He's got some vintage wide body B5s. They're all built. They're all long. You know, so maybe a future guest. But huge thanks to Mike for letting his baby little B5 bumper slide into good hands for good use on the Hibiscus. So huge shout out to Mike King Jack on letting that bumper go.
Nice. Now I got the B6, the S4 went through inspection, passed with flying colors. So
nice.
Yeah. Red Audi TT project is done. It's getting ready to go into for inspection. So.
Hey, how'd you send it to me?
How did I send what?
The notes.
Oh, they're in. I shared it via email to your s4rw.net.
Okay.
You find it?
I will.
Okay. Just so you know, 7:09 my time. Oh, look, Mr. Reid is calling us, right? Shit.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
He just called and we missed it.
How did we miss it, man?
I went to click it and I was.
Call him.
I'm calling. Man, why do people love to yell at me? Calling, Reid Coe. Oh.
Yeah, I'm curious if the audio via my cell phone will be better than the audio via my laptop has been over the last 10 weeks or so.
Bro, I'll be honest, I want to know if he looks as handsome as he does on Instagram as he does on video. He's going to look just as good.
I bet he looks just as fire as those 2.7 Billet blocks look on those Instagram posts.
Bro, I'm pretty sure.
Yes,
oh, we hear him. He's hearing us talk shit.
Hey.
Hi.
How's it going, guys?
It is going amazing. How you doing, Reid?
Good. Can you guys see me? I'm trying to get my phone to... The settings seem to be...
Oh, there it is.
Sure. All right. We've also been battling issues. I was talking to Jack a second ago. I'm recording on my cell phone as well because,
nice.
Technical difficulties never seem to come at the appropriate times. But
yeah.
Steve did some upgrades.
All right.
So,
welcome to Real Talk Vlogs, our weekly podcast about all things Audi and things automotive related. And we didn't go too far into detail on an introduction for you, other than you're doing some R&D in the Audi world. So we'll let you give yourself an introduction and let you take it.
Yeah, I'm wasting a lot of money trying to make cool products. I've been working on Audis, man, since 2007. Actually, want to know kind of an interesting piece of history? We have you guys know the AMD 1000 RS6, that C5 RS6?
I do believe.
We have that in shop right now, and I just realized the other day that lift that it's on was either the first or second stage 3 car. It was done on that lift in like 2002.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yo, if that lift could tell some stories.
Yeah. Yeah, so Mike Scheinman from Vast, back in the day, he didn't have a lift. So he called us and he's like, hey, can I use your lift to do this? So we're like, yeah. So we got hooked up, how I got hooked up in Audi's was there a guy named, his name's Michael Hansen, John Michael Hansen, and he had a car that was called Blue Crush. The OG guys probably knew about that car. It had all sorts of gross Riger stuff on it. And it was a stage 3 car. And that's actually that's the car I learned how to drive a stick on that and an S10. So he showed up. He's a pretty. His mom was a doctor and his dad was pretty wealthy. And he's like, hey Reid, you want to just drive this? And I was like, what? To school? He's like, yeah, just take it for a couple weeks. So I was like, oh shit. So I drove that car for a minute. That's why I'm here today. So,
wow.
Right? That's a good introduction. My introduction to B5s was like the 14-year-old birthday Motor Trend edition, you know, from like 1997 or 8 or 9, you know. So, yeah, your story's a little better than ours, but you've had B5s other than the one that was your first, because do you hold the quarter mile record in B5s in the States, or has that been...
Right. So I still hold the full interior. I mean, I guess I don't know if that counts.
I mean, but no.
Now,
Yeah.
just to clarify, what is that record exactly? Like, I'm just curious.
So right. Yeah, the crazier one actually is the is it breaking up for you guys? How's the connection okay for you guys?
It's breaking up a little bit, honestly.
Let me see. Just quick. Let me see if maybe I need to go to the. No, I have full. Okay, I don't know what's going on.
Are you on Wi-Fi?
Keep trying it.
Are you on Wi-Fi or on your cell phone signal?
I am.
On the Wi-Fi?
I'm on. Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say sometimes the 5G connection is honestly better. I've noticed it, like you got a bunch of kids and stuff in the house, or if you're running your rigs in the background, it'll screw with things.
There we go. Now we're on 5G. That looks better. That looks way better. Okay, good.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. So that was the silver car. Actually, that's still in Ohio right now, and I talked to that guy. I chased him down and found him. So we actually, that was a stock intake manifold that was ported. It was just an APR bipipe on 3-liter and 605.2s on race gas, and we had some ported heads done by Roush, and they totally screwed up because we couldn't get more than 12 degrees of timing into it. It was terrible.
Huh.
Yeah, to the point of, on that car, we actually made 25 wheel horsepower switching over to Q16. That's all we could get out of it. It was the weirdest thing.
Wow.
Which is why the race gas record was a 1074 at 135 and some change. But pump gas, we did a 1090 at 133 or 134. So on pump gas and methanol, water meth injection, it was a 1090 car, which was pretty cool.
Dude.
Yeah, I know. I had I don't know if you Brown, but I had Ben Brown's B5, which is just a K24 drop-in rods. Obviously not in the 10s, but a B5 trapping over 130 is something else. It's a different experience entirely.
Yeah, it's a good time. And you know what was the bummer is that was just the beginning. We could have swapped heads, but all of a sudden, boom, the block broke, and it was the second time, and I was just like, and the thing is that the reason why we were able to go as fast as we were, ET wise, was because we could no lift shift. I mean, and I don't know if you guys watched the video, but like the 1-2 is nice, the 2-3 is nice, and on the race gas pole, if you listen to the video, it's actually breaking up in fourth. What happened was I'd blown out my intake temp sensor because we were running 100% methanol, and actually at the end of that pull, it started misfiring and went into lip mode.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny to hear somebody else talk about the same problems I've run into. You know, again, on Ben's car, we had this, we took it to MIR, knowing that we had the trap speeds in it from MCR in Ohio to, going to sea level on the East Coast. And from our trip to Race Wars, again, running a lot of meth, just couldn't get the car to run consistently. And ended up trapping deep into the 130s there, but just, again, couldn't get the ETs down. So it's good to hear that we're not the only ones that have seen problems like that, for sure.
No, and the thing is like, if someone's running, especially if you're running 100% meth, that it makes you go through plugs, and you'll tear up your sensor because what it does is it strips the there's like a rubber coating on that. If you guys ever looked at them, it looks
methanol's really caustic.
Yeah, it is.
I have a car that my buddy Jordan, who I built his car for him, and he runs a lot of meth. He runs a Blake Beetle. Sorry, a Beetlejuice tune. And
a Beetlejuice.
Yeah, it's a little saucy thing. We're going after the KO3 record. We want to reset that thing. It hasn't been touched in so many years, man.
You know what? I've always wanted to do that, and then I got caught up in this stuff, so I got to finish what I started here. But that is a fun record to go after because you put a nice set of inlets on there. You put some high flow intercoolers. You run some meth. You know, it's really not going to be crazy for you to be able to get deep into the 12s, you know, and get no lift shift. Mm-hmm. You're not making enough torque to really, you know, bust that girl up. So,
yeah. Well, that's the other side of it. I'm like, send it. Hey, we know the thing splits at about 500. Well, we can add nitrous if we need to. Dude, I'm one of those. I am one of those. If we're gonna do it, we'll go as far as we can.
Yeah, you can call it the KO3 trim, like right where boost starts falling off, you just add nitrous.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way I see it. Yeah. When boost falls off, we just add a bunch of nitrous. Yeah. Jordan thinks I'm crazy for saying that. I'm like, no, finally, somebody who agrees with me.
Yeah, because, you know, AMD has a stock rod car making just around 600 wheel horsepower, but what he does is he tapers boost up top. And so
pull the
torque. Get away with this. When rods break because of torque and RPM, right? So it's cylinder pressure, and so if you hit that torque number and then match it, you just keep following that torque number. You're not increasing your cylinder pressure enough to bend your rods, right?
Right.
So it is a thing where because you guys have seen how many dyno graphs, the torque starts to fall off. If you just flatten that out, those rods can handle that, right?
Yeah.
That low end spike is harder than just keeping it flat.
I've heard that before from a lot of different people. Even on
put that in your notes, Jack.
I am.
Right,
I'm recording it.
Nitrous Express makes an awesome setup that is you can hook it up to your ECU. You can trigger it by RPM, throttle, all sorts of stuff, and then you can write a map on how much pill you want, how much.
Oh, that's cool.
Nitrous.
Yeah, because don't they, I remember seeing them last year at PRI. They go to solid state solenoids now too, so they're like ignorantly fast. Like
right, yeah. So that would be the thing to do. Like if on your KO3 car, you'd want to run that Nitrous Express setup, and right where your KO3s, you'd want to go onto a dyno. And right where those KO3s start to fall off on boost, you just start creeping that pill up, and then just keep creeping it up all the way to, you'll probably have like a 200 shot that time. Just gotta river out.
Send it.
I'm writing these same notes down for the F21 car because it's, you know, rods only, but only on F21, so you know, same notes apply.
Hey,
right.
I've got that. I wonder how that would be out on the track. You ever thought about what do you think about nitrous and drifting? Since we're talking about nitrous and Audis and.
I mean, you use if you're using it to break the tires loose, it's amazing. But if you're using it to maintain what you're trying to put out in power, you're going to run out of it real fast and drifting.
Fair enough. Just curiosity.
You have to have a lot of bottles.
So I don't know if you know, but I'm a rear wheel drive Audi guy. Like I like to do.
Yeah, cool.
Okay. So I'm just putting it out there in the street. All right. So we do have some topics for you, some questions. The one biggest thing, you are making a wave in the industry with your billet blocks. You know, I just being honest, saying it how it is. But you know, with that comes like, what kind of power are you expecting? Like, where do you see these things going? Like,
so the guy that designed the block. So I was just talking with Karsten Wegner from Wegner Tuning, the intercooler company, Wagner, excuse me. And so we're actually going to be going to SEMA. He invited us to be in his booth at SEMA this year. So
that's fantastic. Cool. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, Philip's going to be there, and so it's going to be good. But so the guy who helped me out in the beginning. So what happened is my dad he started a company that manufactures coil processing equipment. So like all the steel that you see, those big coils of steel, they look like toilet paper rolls that are rolling down the highway with semis. So we make the machines to manufacture anything that steel would go into. So meaning like we process the steel, which it goes through a set of rollers, it's stress relieving. So we have all these machining centers. We hired this guy who had worked at a company called LSM, which they did development work. They were the first ones to make the Billet GTR blocks for AMS.
Oh, wow.
And so anyways, I started telling him this dream. There was a company down in Texas that makes those 1AT blocks, right? So I was talking to them and I said, I want to make a block, and are you guys making it? They said, yeah, I think we are. And then all of a sudden they said they weren't. And I talked to this guy who we had hired, and he said, well, we can make one. And I knew someone who works in the aerospace industry, and he has his own scanning equipment, and he understands how to reverse things so that it's very easy to model off of.
Well, that's a plug.
All of a sudden it just clicked. And so the guy, what we found, he works for a very well-known company that I don't want to say right now because he could get in trouble. But
fair enough.
Developed. I'll tell you who else he's worked for. So he's worked for this LSM company. He did helped develop that GTR block. He worked for a company called T Black. He developed all their big block, billet block engines. He's got over 34 designs under his belt outside of his current business, which is a Forbes company. So he's an amazing guy, an amazing resource, and I was talking to him about it, and I how many times do you ask somebody that question, right? You're like, okay, so what can it do? Like, what is it? And he looked at me and he said, Reid, honestly, like, every other part you're going to throw in this block is going to break before that block breaks. He's like, I go 2,500 horsepower. He goes, it's not going to break. And so that's what he said. So, what we're going to, as a D5 community, what we're going to have to step into is creeping up on the power until our forged crankshaft breaks, right? I mean, there's that car in Europe that's 1,500 that was a compound setup, right?
RS4, I think, or the Avant.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a sedan, a Nagaro sedan, right? That was in Poland, I think. Mm-hmm. So, like, those guys have broken cranks. So you call those guys a forerunner. I don't know how those RS4 blocks are doing. I mean, I hear all sorts of stories that certain RS4 blocks are breaking, certain ones aren't.
But then that also comes back to that whole, what we were just talking about earlier. Sorry to interrupt you, but how is the power being managed?
Right. No, it's true. It's true. But you want to be able to throw as much as possible at it, right? I mean, you want to be able to spool it up with InstaBoost setup or whatever. I mean, that's what Hank has done for a very long time. He uses nitrous on his, I believe it's over his 1,000 wheel horsepower setups, his Hank 1,000 whatever.
Yeah, over at IROS?
Yep.
Yeah.
So on those, he used nitrous on those, and when I visited him 2 falls ago, he had shown me, he's like, hey, I use nitrous, I monitor the shaft speed, and then we just kind of manage it through that. And he's like, you actually run half the wastegate duty cycle you think you would, and it's just way easier. So that is a thing that a lot of people do. And with our cars, once we start to, what's nice is we have a lot more displacement than those. We have 5 valve heads are a very big deal. A lot of people have poo-pooed them in the past, but the valve area on five valves, you get a distribution over the cylinder head that a 2 valve and especially even like a push rod car wouldn't get. So you can imagine it's not just even about air flow; it's actually about distribution of that air over the cylinder.
Yeah, because the way the sorry.
Right. No, it's perfect. That's exactly right.
I was gonna say, because the way when air comes in through a cylinder head, it droops, and there's like that pocket right there as the valves come in, and how that air actually comes down into the cylinder. It changes.
How it tumbles.
Yeah. Sorry.
Right.
Hey,
right. The tumble and then the squish that occurs. Right. You want to be able to. So, anyways, I'm excited about that, and I think that if we're able to have a block that handles anything we can throw at it, now we can start to get back to hardware. And I was talking with Jason. I'm pretty close with Jason at AMD, and he was talking with me about, he's like, man, this is the first time I've worked on hardware in a long time. We haven't had solutions.
Yeah, it's because, well, here, no one messes with these cars. Like, let's be honest. There's like, I'm going to say probably 20, and I'm probably overdoing it, of manufacturers, people like yourself, that are still saying, let's R&D parts of this thing, you know? Everyone's out there breaking records. Like, being honest, I expect to see some pretty insane records be broken from you in the future. Yeah. I foreshadow it, but I want to thank you. You know, it's interesting to watch you say that. Hey, you're going back to these people, and they're like, I haven't done this stuff in so long. It's cool. It's cool.
So, it's exciting to see a lot of the guys that have been players in the B5 or modified Audi game as a whole for a long time coming back to something that may have brought them in the first place. Right. They might be working with ETRSs or RS3s or R8s or whatever now, but like the thing that got them here is a B5. Right. And, like, that draws a lot of passion for folks. I mean, like the block thing, he posted B5 pictures on the salt flats last week. That got him. So I think there's a lot of enthusiasm to come with what you're doing. So,
and I tell you, like it's been such a gift. Like Scott reached out to us, and he's interested in a supercharger kit from Hoonigan, right? It's just.
I already know where that's going.
You're absolutely right. I mean, these guys are. It connected all of us, you know. And if we can do something. These engines can make awesome power, especially for the boost levels. I mean, everything that Hank is doing, you're talking, Hank's running 60 plus PSI in some of these engines on these 2.5s.
Dude. My Lord.
I mean, we're at 65 PSI, it will be well over 1,500 horsepower. It's not like, it's going to be a lot easier for us to make power. And you're dropping 40 pounds over the axle. I mean, everything. It's just the whole thing packages. You know, there's a show called NOWO up in Michigan.
Yeah.
We did a reveal of it. We did a reveal of it with like plexiglass on one side and cylinder head on the other. We were rotating it, and the biggest comment that people made was like, that thing is so small. And what's cool about that is you can package it. I mean, you can package it way easier than a VR6. You know, it's multiple inches shorter than a VR6.
Yeah.
You know, it's way. You can put it in so many things. It's like that guy that has a Boxster. I think he's a Boxster.
Yeah, there's a 270 Boxer out there.
Yeah, he's got a Boxster. And so
been around Jack a couple times. He's got a front wheel drive Passat Trans.
Yeah.
And
technically the whole car.
I bought a mid '80s CRX. Right?
Oh,
and we whipped out the like measuring tape, and it's not going to fit, and we'll take it a different route. But like, it did hit the drawing board to say, can we stuff a front wheel? Like, will it fit? And it's this close, and that's about as small of a package as you can get.
It's smaller than a 4-cylinder.
Yo, let's clarify. It will fit. Steve just doesn't got the need and the desire to use the cutting torch and welder like I would.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. So that guy with that Boxer and it has a lot more options. It's smaller than all the K24 stuff that everyone likes to swap. It's smaller than all of that. So the packaging and has more displacement. You know, on this block we're able to go up to 3.1 liters. So we clearance the inside, so you could swing a larger crank in there. And the piston speed is still okay. The rod stroke ratio is still okay at 154 millimeter rod. Everything is good. I mean, so it can be the theories that people had where 3 liters can't be spun as high is a complete farce. It's the same stroke as a V10 R8. It's the same stroke as a 4.2 liter V8. It's the same one. The 3 liter is. And the 3.1 isn't much bigger. It's only a couple millimeters more. So an 8,000 RPM engine with a 3.1 liter, I mean, imagine some of the stuff, like whether you go with the new G25 660s or whatever, you're you're spooling like a KO4 and making over 1,000 wheel.
Let that sink in for a second. Wait.
Yeah, I'm trying to find my wallet right quick.
I'm telling you, wait a second.
The daily driving experience is amazing. I mean, that's hard to beat. You know what I mean?
So I just got to humor myself here. So I've had 2.7s and 4.2s side by side, comparing apples to apples. It's like comparing a 4.3 and an LS. You know, it's like they just chopped a cylinder section off. Do we have any expectations to see a Billet 4.2? Knowing what
I don't. Yeah, no, it's a good question. I don't know yet. I mean, we'll have to push it really. We'll have to push it and see where it ends up. I can tell you, Tim Hogan's AMD 1000 RS6. That is just rods. That's it.
I'm listening very carefully right now because I have a lot of questions about V8 belt drive stuff.
Yeah.
So wait, his motor's only rods, you're saying?
Only rods. They coated the pistons. They put new rings in there. They rehoned the alley seal. That's it.
I read in one of your posts on Instagram that the 4.2 brakes around, the rods go around 700.
So we're predicting that.
Okay.
And the reason why we're predicting that is if you've ever looked at a timing belt 4.2 rod, it's almost the exact same design as a 2.7 rod, right?
All right.
And then it just becomes simple math. We know that a 2.7, you really don't want to go, and just to say safely, beyond 450 foot-pounds to the wheels, right?
Okay.
Depending on the dyno, right? Some of them are 525, whether it's a dynojet or whatever, but just say 450. So you divide that number by 6, and then you multiply it by 8. And there are calculators online that'll tell you what does that much foot-pounds to the wheels look like at, just say 7,500 RPM, which is a very safe number to take those engines to with stock drivetrain, stock valve train.
Mm-hmm.
And that number is, 700 is a conservative guesstimate.
Okay.
So I mean, I what I think we'll see pretty soon is bolt-on blower kits that will easily make 700 wheel horsepower, and you just got to do a 6-speed swap and a clutch.
So that's what's got me very intrigued about this. So I have a C5 sitting over on, I have a white C5 that I'm needing to do a manual swap on. And
Right.
I seen that, and it got me thinking. I'm like, I'm building an LSA Pro Spec car, but I see you're talking about 700 horsepower out of a 4.2, and I'm like,
Right.
man, I would much rather. I don't know if you've seen Daniel Carter's setup. He's up in, so Daniel Carter is in Canada. He runs a B5 with a M112 on it, strapped to a 4.2. Yeah. And he's putting down like 630, I think he said, on his setup. And it makes me, between what you're having, like, you're going to run the TVS 1800, I think you said on there?
1900.
1900.
Yeah, actually, so we'll have an option, a TVS 1900 option, and then we'll have a TVS 2650 option.
Are people going to be able to buy just the intake manifolds themselves?
I really don't want to sell them that way. They're designed for those specific superchargers, and they're designed to fit the flange like of a 2650 or a 1900 and just barely fit under the hood. So anyone trying to make adapter plates and fitting smaller stuff, it's just not going to be...
Well, no, that's not... I'm not trying to make an adapter plate. I only asked because I actually built blowers for many years for a company like Stigmeyer's Performance. All the guy did, he's an old timer. He did airflow since he was like this big. And I got to work with him, so I have access to it's ridiculous. And when I seen your post, the first thing I did was I called Bob. I'm like, hey, do we have any of these older these VMPs? And he's like, I believe so. So I was like, man, that was the only reason I'm honestly asking, was if somebody could buy one because they had a blower. But
no, and actually it's very interesting you ask that, because I was just on the phone with Alex from AM Tune today, and we're looking to work out maybe a deal for single turbo kits to use that intake manifold, and then he doesn't have to pipe it anywhere but from right behind the intake manifold.
Dude, that would...
to the intake manifold.
Yo, that would be cool.
It's intercooled.
Yeah, I was just thinking that would be cool, because you've got intercooler, your intercooler's in your intake manifold. You can have an endless supply of water and icebox. Like, that's yeah.
And we're gonna run more so on the blower. We're gonna run more on the when you go into. There's gonna be an intro kit. An intro kit is just meant for people to get into the game. You know what I mean? It's gonna be intercooled. It's gonna be the same intercooler because it's just more cost effective to make one.
Right. I mean, but it's how it's plumbed.
Right. So the pump is going to be kind of like a basic Bosch pump, and then we're going to use, like on the B6, B7, we're going to use the auxiliary radiators, because that's all you need for people who are running lower boost.
Mm-hmm.
But on the all-out kits, on the kits that they want to run that 700 wheel and over, you got to do a throttle body. You're going to have to do a 102, 103 throttle body. You're going to have to, at least, on the 1900. And the 2650 is going to have a 112 millimeter throttle body. And then you're going to have to run enough BTU transfer and heat exchangers. And I say heat exchangers because there'll be more than one.
Dual pass? Is it going to be like dual pass?
Right. The concept of my kit is, I mean, you can still run an icebox. You can still go run Killer or whichever one you want to run. But the heat exchanger setup is going to have more BTU transferability than the intercooler has. So, because what a lot of people...
Well, then it would be bottlenecking otherwise, wouldn't it?
Well, that's because people don't design it that way.
Well, no, because they want to make more parts.
If you go and look at most intercooler kits, they just do one heat exchanger, and it doesn't take out enough heat to have that. The goal should always be to keep the coolant at ambient temperature, right? It should always be that. But that's not what kits go for. Kits just run what should be good enough, especially from the factory. They run what's just good enough so that they don't have to start pulling too much timing and the heat doesn't go too crazy, right?
Right.
But like the APR kit, you guys remember the APR B7 RS4 kit, right?
Yep.
The reason that failed, the reason that their kit failed for the S4, the B8 S4, not only did they pick the wrong supercharger, in my opinion, that's not a high pressure ratio. The compressor map, if you look at it, it's not a high pressure ratio compressor.
Wasn't that a PES kit, if I remember right?
No, APR went through Magnuson.
Yeah, that's right. It's where it was. The actual blower was on the bottom of it. They put it down in the valley. Bad place for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So they didn't have enough cooler to pull heat out of the air, and then on top of that,
your heat soaking it.
They didn't have enough heat exchanger. So they went. It was the worst of both worlds. And so when we were developing this kit, we actually spent about 2 months going back and forth with Bell intercoolers. They have the ability to run setups. So if I get them what my coolant temp is going to be for the water, what the air temp is going to be for the outlet of the supercharger, and what my pressures are going to be, and then how we're going to handle the air. Meaning, in our setup, we actually double pass the air. So we're using a 2 1/4 inch intercooler, but it's acting like a 4 1/2. So we pass the air down through the center. We have a redirection fins in the bottom that then pass it up through the core again, and then literally at the top of the intake manifold. It kind of looks like an ovary, actually. Yeah. So I was like, when the first time I do the concept on the board to the engineer, he's like, I'm like, the ovary design. That's from
just bring life to the new design.
We're gonna make boost babies.
Big boost babies. Big, that's epic.
Yeah.
So what kind of IAT2s you think are you expecting?
We went with some extremes. So I went on the Eaton website, and they said, okay, so worst case scenario, the biggest extreme possible is 160 degrees Celsius, which is close to 320 degrees Fahrenheit, right?
Yeah.
And so what's cool is we've been doing a lot of dyno tuning on NA stuff for the V6S4, and at that shop, they have GT500s, they have ZR1s, they have all these. So I actually got to look at a couple of 2650 kits, and we took into account what the GT500 kit looked like, because that's a 2650, right?
Yeah.
What the intercooler sizing was. So I submitted that to them as well. We did a study on that. We did a study on 7 different iterations of intercooler design. And the last one we ended up with was at 1,300 horsepower. It's less than 0.5 psi pressure drop. And it takes the temperature from 320 to 160
Fahrenheit?
Fahrenheit.
That's
And
nice.
That's
without...
That's with 100. I was assuming, said this guy's in the desert. That's 110 Fahrenheit degree water. So like you start to get that water temperature down. You start to get all this. So that was the extreme. Normally a blower outlet temp is in the 200s, low 200s at most.
And eventually that heat, if you're just making pass after pass, everything is just hot at that point.
Right.
I mean,
right. So what you're talking about is a car, more than likely, with everything that we're going to be throwing at it, a car that won't typically go over that 40C mark.
How long?
All out.
I was going to say, how long can it run that way, though? Like, how do you expect to be, like, I guess what I'm getting at is we have another guest that's going to be on in a future upload. It's Cal. He runs, specifically this gentleman runs a B7 supercharged kit. I'll send you some thing about it. Anyway, but he time attack races. So with your setup, do you think somebody could take your kit and go time attack it, or like?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Absolutely. Sorry about that. Absolutely. So the kit, like I said, the kit is meant to not be able to be heat soaked because we have more BTU transfer in the heat exchangers than we do in the intercooler.
That's awesome.
So that intercooler, like I said, I gave a very extreme example. Most of the time, your water temp is going to be 80s, 90s at worst, right?
Okay.
And then your outlet temp is going to be more like 220 at worst when you're running 27, 28 psi, right?
Yeah.
Like big boost, right?
So.
And that puts you in the mix of that low 100 Fahrenheit temperature. That's before you do any ice box. That's before you do any killer chiller or any setup like that.
That's not even considering methanol in there.
It was nearly 3 times more cooling than the GT500.
Dude, that's insane. Because I've seen some pretty ridiculous GT350, GT500s. That's Bob's forte. Like the M120. Yeah. Sorry, M122, that's his blower. Right. That man loves that thing.
Right. So yeah, we're talking the brand new 2020 GT500. We have almost 3 times the cooling on this kit.
That's insane. Ford, take notes.
Yeah, this is so exciting where it goes.
Yeah, I'm not even going to jinx myself right now. Let's finish one supercharged project. Then we'll build another.
Right.
I'm going to have to get one of these.
Here's the next thing for that kit that I was really excited about. We're trying to pioneer. We're working with 3D printing companies. So there's a newer 3D printing technology where you actually print in a chamber, a heated chamber. It's like an oven. So you can take some of these high temp carbon fiber polymers and you can print them, and you can have them last through millions of heat cycles without any delamination or anything like that. So we actually we're commissioning a 3D model this week that we will be putting into our prototype, all the things that we're going to be running our prototype through. So we're going to be putting it on a dyno. We're going to be running maximum supercharger RPM, probably around 23,000, 24,000 RPM blower speed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna be
You're
running
gonna cook
it through
it.
we're gonna be running it. We're gonna do back to back pulls we're going to be putting it through the ringer and seeing if this works. Because if this works, we're going to buy our own 3D printer. That means we can start to do somewhat custom setups for people when they want some changes, if they want to pay for something that's a tweak. And not only that, it's more cost effective than cast.
Yeah, which means we can buy it cheaper.
Exactly, which means you guys can buy it cheaper. So, because what happens is, one of these 3D printers, they're like over 60 grand, right?
That's not bad, though. Think about, realistically, macroly here, that's not that bad.
Right. So, and that's more of an entry level one. I'm testing out two different ones. The next level up from there is $240,000.
Okay, now we're getting a little steep here. That's a jump.
So I already have a backup. I have a casting company. They've looked at the model. It's more than doable. It's not a whole lot more, but it is more because you have to machine it. There's more in material costs. And then anytime I want to change it, say I have to go, say I find out when I get a 2650 in that I have to use a different intake manifold, that's another $26,000 in just tooling.
Yeah, because
$30,000. The inlet, another $30,000 in tooling.
Mm-hmm.
If I have to do two different inlets because somebody wants to run a stock throttle body and somebody wants to run a 102, so I try to keep that's another $20,000 in. So that's why a 3D printer in this model is going to save you guys a lot of money because I don't have to keep charging for tooling costs.
Yeah, no, that stuff's real.
Yeah.
Like, it's... Yep. But, okay, so that... Let me stop here. I'm stopping myself. Because there's some rabbit holes there. Like, I've been down this rabbit hole, like, with Bob.
Yeah.
How many... You're saying you're only offering two different blowers, but... Just ignore me, Steve. Carry on. I'm stepping out. My brain is overworking for a second here. Sorry.
I want to get back to on the Billet 2.7 stuff. We kind of skipped over the weight savings.
Wow.
I don't think a whole lot of people really understand what happens when you take 40 pounds out of the front of a B5. Right. So, like, Jack and I were down at the Tail of the Dragon for Wookiees in 2019 and this past year again, and a bone stock B5 S4 with sticky R-Comp tires on it is a weapon. So, like, in my mind, I've done a lot of autocrossing and stuff, and there are definitely better cars for it, for the tight handling stuff, than a B5 S4 for sure. But I'm definitely excited to see what the, like gentleman Jack was talking about, time attack guys and the hill climb something up in a rabbit hole I definitely want to jump down before I die. But the weight saving stuff is massive.
Right.
I'm sorry.
It's a huge deal, and on top of that, another thing that the Tweetler team is getting to work on, and something we're going to launch in 2022 is a full titanium fastener kit. That's another 5-ish pounds, right? And you start to do all this stuff. I mean, it might even be more. I'm just from what we had in a bag. I haven't even tested it out yet,
Yeah.
But you're talking all of your bell housing bolts. You're talking, the big stuff, and then you do a titanium exhaust. I mean, you do a carbon fiber hood. You can drop 200 pounds like that, and it doesn't even look like it's not stock.
I'm sorry. I was saying I can personally contest that the front clip of a car is about from where that beam comes right down off the car. That's about 140 pounds. Just throw all that metal off. It's gone. Okay, right. I gathered myself. I apologize. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. I have the worst adult ADD ever.
Oh man, story of my life. Yeah.
You were talking about 3D printing these manifolds.
Right.
And I've seen some 3D printed manifolds.
Right.
Are you from a cost perspective? And then you're talking about having casted ones. Coming from working on blowers, one of the things I see the biggest problem with is the PCV system, the oil saturation that heat exchangers go through. Do you have a plan for that? Is it going to be serviceable?
Right.
These are things that I'm curious of as a potential consumer. I'm sorry I'm going away from the 2.7 stuff.
No. It's perfect. So that's good. So I'm excited. The intercooler actually took us the longest to design because putting the scan told us everything we needed to know about how to fit something in there without hitting. I mean, I honestly on the V6 from our first primary model that we printed in it was a very cheap printer. We did it just because we wanted to say like proof of concept. We threw it in there. Does it hit? Actually the plate itself, there's a 3/8 plate. It was 3/8 all the way around. We mic'd it. It's actually pretty accurate. But,
nice.
Yeah. But so that's not the issue. It's trying to put that 10 pounds of crap into a 5 pound bag.
Hey, yeah.
So and you don't have a lot of space. That's why actually a lot of the inverted intercooled setups have an advantage because you can split the airstream and then you can get that runner height, especially if it's a direct injection engine, right? Because you have to deal with injectors. But
right.
So it's like, okay, I can't put it there. The 2650 was too wide.
It's a big blower. And it's
Yeah.
Are you gonna have methanol will there be methanol ports and all that on there too?
So there's a methanol port on the inlet.
Okay.
And then there's also going to be methanol ports. We can do methanol ports above the runners, and or just there's one where we can do on the outside of the blower, and that's a better location. You actually want to move it away from, because I had a VF kit on my V6, which is why I wanted to make a new one because the intercooling was just awful. I mean, it heat soaked. You couldn't recover it. It was terrible. But I ran a ton of meth, and what I found out was, even though I ran baby nozzles, number 3 nozzles for the Snow Performance kit, I still, unless I was running really high percentages of methanol, it would fall out the part, it would blow the plugs out. I mean, we were on a dyno on E85 when we turned up the boost, and that's when we folded a set of rods. I wanted to see for myself where the limit was. We put some rods.
I'm in that exact boat right now. That exact boat. I've had. You mentioned Mike Vast earlier.
Yeah.
I have one of his original tunes on my A6 outside. That thing has not been retuned for 10 years. And sorry, random rant. But I am ready. I'm buying an ECU just to see. I want to break one. I got 2 extra 2.7s in the garage. I want to break one just to have that mantle. I'm tired of it.
And I was racing when it happened. I was racing. The guy who did the B5S4 bitch, Mark Lutzai?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was racing him, and he's like, bro, I don't want to race right now. We were headed to my wife's birthday, actually. I'm such an idiot. And so I'm like, no. I want to run it. We got to run this. So I'm next to him, and it sounded like I missed a shift, and I was ahead of him. He was in a KO4 car on E85, and I was ahead of him. And it sounded like I missed a shift, but I looked back behind me, and it's just a cloud of smoke, and people are flashing.
Oh! Whoops!
What we found out, this was just a fascinating thing that we found out. We were at 14 degrees of timing beyond what just regular E85 wanted, and we just started right there and started making about the same power as E85. We could have ran more, but imagine that car didn't have a failsafe, so if something happens to that meth, I'm like 15, 20 degrees timing out of where I should have been without that. And so that, that'd have been...
Dude, that you're when you started, man, that's like when Beetle, when Beetle, he was like, yo, because we flat out said, hey, give us the extra saucy one for S4 Race Wars, and he's like, look, do not whatsoever run that tank out of meth. He's like, it's done. He's like, it's gonna go, and I'm like, you did it.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah.
That stuff will save your ass and ruin your life all in one night.
It will. No,
so, did you end up making it to the, to your wife's birthday party?
I did, but just a lot later.
Was it?
Like a lot. Yeah.
I'm sorry. All right, well.
Yeah, I should have thought about that, but I was just like, you know what? I've been racing this thing the last 3 days. I've been kicking everyone's ass.
So I got,
right?
Dude, It happens. It happens.
Yeah.
We were at Wookiees this past year in April, which you should come to Wookiees. You would like Wookiees. Come join us in the camp.
Everybody likes Wookiees.
I'll send you the
My
details.
wife can do a Wookiee voice.
Yo, that'd be perfect.
Yeah.
We got a megaphone.
Yeah.
I'll send you the information about Wookiees in the Woods. It's in April. It's a big Volkswagen event that's held at the Tail of the Dragon. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not, but
Yeah, I actually, you know what I have? Yeah.
nice.
Mention it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So there was a couple questions I was curious that I wrote down specifically because I'm intrigued. As somebody who dabbles in fabrication, we'll call it, compared to you. How many versions are you on now? Like from the time you started with the 2.7 billet to present day, to production model, how many different designs do you think you've gone through?
I think, right now, I think we're on Rev 17.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. So
Yeah, a lot of them are just smaller changes. You know, the main concept. You know, the reason why you get so many delays, especially in this day right now with COVID stuff. You know, it's like one thing can delay something 20 weeks. It seems.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And the last round of this was we had the block ready, and we went to put heads on it. And what happened was they didn't. What's called, I don't know if you guys know the difference between a tapered, like a regular traditional tap and a bottom tap.
A bottom tap is cut all the way to the bottom, and a traditional tap is it's got that half inch at the bottom. Not for all those who don't know.
Right, and our threads are what's called roll formed, so they're not cut, they're formed. And what that does is it's like a forging process, so your threads are a lot stronger. That's what ARP does with all of their head studs, right? So the tab, all this stuff's custom. You know, we've got like over 85 grand in just tooling, and so
it adds up quick.
It's been crazy, and so the roll form tap that they used actually didn't go all the way to the bottom, and he had some thoughts, but this is just anything in business. It's like you have a communication dropout between one person and the other. We got to put the heads on, and what happened was the stud hadn't gone down far enough to where if the nut was bottoming out on the stud that's supposed to be touching the head, wasn't touching the head. And so it starts to just turn those threads on. We just ripped 2 threads out because it just kept turning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so because that thread was tapered and because it hadn't hit, it just kept trying to turn and it just ripped it right out because that's supposed to just, that torque is supposed to just be compression torque. It's not supposed to be putting any twist on the stud,
it's just squeezing the 2 pieces together.
Right. So we figured this out too late. And
you
know, it was my fault. He's like, something doesn't feel right. I'm like, you know, the guy who machined it mentioned something. Let's just see it. He went and it was just too late. So anyways, he went to fix the head. The guy our machinist went to fix the head. He didn't realize that all those holes were drain ports to the oil. So he got chips over the whole rotating assembly. Everywhere. It was everywhere. So that's, right now we're in the process of tearing it back down. We got to clean it out. Because we had heads on it. I went to start assembling it, and I kind of looked inside the oil pan. I'm like, well, what are these chips? I'm like, you know, I thought that the guy who'd worked on the block had just the clearance of the pan and forgot to I opened it up, and it was just, dude, there were curly cues over everything. Main bearings, rod bearings. It was everywhere. Everywhere. So
there's nothing you can do. I mean, at that point, you got to rebuild.
You got to tear it down. So that's what we're doing right now. But it's just little things like that you kind of, like, you know, like you take your time to do some promo stuff, and then you know what I mean? It's just, products just take a while. But I'm excited. Hopefully, you know, we'll have, Philip is getting a block, Philip Case, Philip Case, I think it's pronounced. So he's going to be our plan, hopefully, and if he sees this episode, I hope we do this. We're going to have his block ready for SEMA. We'll ship it out to SEMA so he can take delivery there after the show. It'll be the one that we do the presentation on, and then we can take delivery there. Yeah, and then we'll have our block hopefully back within a week or two, and then we're having someone check out all the machining again. We're just like, hey, if it's coming apart, you might as well double, triple check. We someone chucking someone else's work just to make sure it's right. Because if you're going to push it, you want to know that the variables have been eliminated. You know what I mean? You want to be like, oh, could it have been this? Could it have been that? You want to get rid of all this. So,
no, I agree.
It's kind of a blessing in disguise, but we should have that running in the next within the next month. By sometime November, you guys should be seeing us on the dyno. We've got a pretty cool gig over here where there's a guy who does Miata stuff. It's called Fab 19.
Okay.
So he actually just I was talking with him. I'm like, man, I'm gonna have all this R&D work I'm gonna do. And he goes, well, why don't you just come over and run the dyno? I was like, run the dyno? He goes, yeah, just give me a call. We'll figure out a day. So I show up. His guy helps me get on the dyno, and they just take off. And so
it's a good skill to have.
Yeah, it's amazing. So you guys will see us in the moment that it's running. I'm putting it on a dyno. I'm going to be sampling the oil. You know, I'm going to be making sure, because we want to make sure all this stuff seals. You know, we're running. What's cool is we're not just doing just the press fit to seal. We're using what's called a wicking Loctite. So it slips on the backside. So in everything uses factory gaskets. So you can go to any place, buy factory gaskets. The only thing that's different are the main cap studs and the side bolts.
That's awesome, though. That makes it really easy to service long term. Now,
right.
With that said, though, are you gonna do fire rings in the cylinder in the block?
The block designer said with the MLS gaskets that we're running, he doesn't think we're going to need to.
Okay.
It's going to be more. It's going to be the concern more is going to be how much clamp load we have.
Gotcha.
So that we don't get the heads lifting, right? So what's cool is Wagner Tuning they've also started a company that does head studs. So that's what we're going to be premiering is their head stud that's stronger than a 625 ARP, and we use a 2000, right? There's an 825, there's a 2000, and then there's a 625, right? Or
okay.
8 something. We use a 2000. So our 2000s max out at about 90, 95 foot-pounds. These are going to be more like 110-ish, right? So that gives us a lot more clamp load to keep that head down. And it's going to be using the same bolt size. So it's going to be, no one has to redo it. Now, our block can be provisioned all the way up to a half-inch head stud. We're currently at 11 millimeters, so we can go all the way up to half inch. But the problem is that the cylinder head cannot go beyond the stock configuration unless we start drilling out holes. And we discovered through sacrificing a head that you can't go more than about 15 millimeters. And then you start breaking through the lifter bores. So we're making a head stud combo that's going to use a traditional 12-point nut on a 12-millimeter stud with Wagner. Their company isn't called that. I forget the name of their stud company, but and that's going to be the next step. That's going to be a 130 foot-pound head stud, which will be. I mean, think about it this way: Supras, which have to seal an inline 6, are just using 7/16, which is very close to an 11 millimeter at a 625 bolt. So. Yeah. The 12 millimeter, and now this is on Billet Supra 2JZs, right? So we're gonna have more than enough head stud. We're gonna have far more than enough head stud.
Yeah, we have over half of a 2J's head studs on one side of the motor.
Right.
Like, that's we got you with that setup. You're gonna have some clamping load, which brings me into another question that's been itching at me. Are we gonna see heads? Is Tweetler going to make cylinder heads?
If we did, we would probably look into like a finger follower setup or something like that. We'd probably want to, it would be designed around a standalone setup where we could adjust both intake and exhaust cams. We'd want to bring it to the 21st century, right? That's how we'd want to do it.
Okay.
The guy who will not be named, who did the design, he also did a lot of work for his current company on certain cars that do drag races for certain factories. And so he's very, very well adept to being able to design something like that. And he and I have discussed some finger follower stuff. But to be honest with you, a good cam. I mean, look at Hank. All the stuff that Hank has done, most of his stuff isn't even on ported heads.
Yeah, true that.
And stock cams.
So if heads aren't necessarily in the mix, what are your thoughts about even custom grind cams? Is that something that we might see come from Tweetler?
AMD is actually, so we try to, that's one of the things that I saw in the industry for a long time. Is people would just keep stepping on each other's toes, and they didn't want to partner up. And it's like that divide and conquer that never happened. It's like everyone was just crapping on each other.
Yeah, pooling resources. I mean, here, I know everyone hates on the BMW Supra, but let's be honest.
Right.
When you pool your resources, you put a lot of brain power behind things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man, it's insane what we're better together than we are divided in a lot of cases.
Right, because what's our goal? Our goal is to pull more people into B5s, B6s, D2s. We want to pull more people into our crew so we can sell more product, right? I mean, it's really not about, like, trying to stop on other people. APR is one thing. You know what I mean? Like, if we're in the tuning game, you got to go head to head. You got to take people on. But if you're on the deep development side, the hardware side, where you're trying to make, quadruple, 5, 6x what the car came with, then you gotta start trying to pool resources with people. So AMD is going to be doing cams. They're already working on them. They're finished, actually, I should say. That requires some head modification to be able to run the duration that they're going to be running. So what's cool is we can partner. We can combine. We have a ported head program. We're working with a guy who's worked on F1 heads. He's actually that company's championed multiple IndyCar teams. They're the #1 pro stock cylinder head developer in the world. They're brilliant guys. They understand all that stuff. They're going to be developing ported heads for us on the 2.7. They already have for the 4.2. And so they're going to be, once we do that, then we're going to clearance the holes for the headsets, right?
Yeah.
And all the 12-point nut. And so we're not using that internal, right, nut.
Sorry, not to interrupt you, but to go to the headset. So you're saying that the factory diameter, the max we can put in there is 12 millimeter? Or they have to be, they still have to be line hose?
So you could technically put a 15 millimeter stud through there. But the problem is the fastener to be able to secure that to create the clamp.
The actual nut.
That's that nut has to have a flange on the bottom to distribute the weight amongst the head, right?
Right.
So in order to do that, what we found out is the biggest we want to go to is about 12 mil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, you brought it a full circle. I had to ask again.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey. On every time we have a guest on, we love to flex their brain power a little bit more than the normal. You might have seen this if you've done any history. We got some trivia questions for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
It's five short questions. They're multiple choice. And since you have helped introduce a aluminum billet block into the Audi world, all of our questions revolve around aluminum.
Okay.
So we're gonna hit you with the first question of Real Talk Blogs trivia. Just so you know, none of our current or past guests have gotten more than half right.
Okay.
So,
and they're not difficult questions, okay? They are. You're very intelligent.
If the answers put out in front of us.
Nice.
All right. Who constructed the first ever aluminum engine? Carl Benz, Ferdinand Porsche, Henry Ford, or Augusta Porsche?
It would make sense to me that it was Porsche. But
final answer?
Yeah.
Carl Benz, 1901.
Carl Benz.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Benz. Okay. I was thinking of diesel. Right. Okay.
So he made the first aluminum engine, but made that before he founded Mercedes-Benz.
Interesting.
Right, in his days
Very
as
cool.
an engineer before being a business person.
Wow.
I gotta ask, have you ever tried to cast an engine yourself?
No, but I am working with a guy who. So my dad started a marine engine company because I started doing this. He's like, I gotta get into it. So he started a marine, and he used to work for Dart, and that's great. Engines you guys know, but yeah. So
Dude, Dart used to be the way.
Yeah, his name's Bud Keating. He actually used to help. He used to run Dart. He's a pretty cool guy, but he's just told me the beauties and the horrors of casting engines. It's quite a task.
Bob told me about a time when he was younger, and his dad's friend. This is probably 1940s at this point, and they were talking about how they his dad's friend casted an engine in sand in their backyard. And I'm like, yo, I wish I had digital cameras. I would have loved to have seen a picture of that.
I would have loved to have seen that too, man. That's great. You know what they want to charge you for a big block for just tooling? It's well over $500,000.
What?
Oh, my goodness.
Just
Wow.
You don't even have a block yet.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, I felt like I invested heavily in a microphone and a camera. So,
Holy cow.
Hey, well, continue on. Let's continue on with our thing.
Yeah.
Second trivia. When was aluminum first available in a retail application? 1910, 1883, 1931, or 1895? Again, 1910, 1883, 1931, or 1895?
1895?
Aluminum foil was the first retail available product, and it was not introduced to the market until 1910.
Wow.
I'll be honest, I thought this was going to be like the 1950s. You know, right around let's wear armadillo hats and get underneath our desks and everyone's going to blow us up. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Dude, that seems too old for aluminum foil.
I don't know. I mean, I'm going to do my best. I'm doing my best.
I told you to give them the easier ones.
You got three more questions. Okay. Which auto manufacturer made the first aluminum engine? Buick, Land Rover, Audi, or Ferrari? And I'll give you a hint. There are two correct answers.
Hey, there's only one on my sheet.
I know one of the first big blocks that were ever made was called the LS6 LS7 back in the day, and it was hold on, the ZL1. It was the ZL1 that was aluminum block, and that was it was super. Anyways, I'm Buick.
You are correct.
Yeah.
You would have also accepted Land Rover in 1961 because Land Rover bought all of their V8s from Buick and introduced them to the market first.
Oh.
Buick V8 before you could buy a Buick V8.
Yeah, that's
You know, they on that ZL1, they underrated it by 200 horsepower because insurance was starting to go crazy. In Detroit, so my dad grew up here in Detroit. In Detroit, they used to sponsor, each one of the big three sponsored a kid who was an executive's son. And they would come out with the hottest stuff every weekend, and their race teams would work on it every week, and the kid would go to Woodward, and that was part of their marketing arm. They would go and race on Woodward with the hottest stuff.
Dude.
The L88 was the engine in the ZL1.
Woodward. How sick is that?
No, that's the L88. Was the L88 was in the Corvette. L88. The ZL1 Camaro had an LS7.
No, I think it's an LS7, because the ZL. Yeah, I'm not here. I'm LS number.
Check it.
I'll fact check this. Hold on. U.S. electric. I'm gonna check it. I got Google right here.
LS7, I think. Yeah, it was aluminum. And the exhaust, I saw one in person. The exhaust is like that big. It's so small. And there's two of them. They're just tiny. Anyways, yeah.
All right. So you're one of three. You have two left. Which auto manufacturer used aluminum to mass-produce bodies first? Ford, Audi, Bentley, or Maserati?
Oh, man. I don't want to say Bentley because the English people were they just didn't know how to make cars, man. They sucked from day one. I mean, the Aston Martins were cool, but they just failed so often.
Yeah.
Maserati?
Audi in 1997 with the D2A8.
Really? That's the first one?
Mass-produced. So essentially, they built up all of the aluminum-bodied cars by Ferrari or Maserati from the 50s were boutique design houses like Pininfarina or, so like the aluminum-bodied short-wheelbase Ferrari was not made by Ferrari.
I see.
Interesting fact. But Audi mass-produced the first, and then of course the other big one in the news lately is Ford with their aluminum trucks. So
right.
All right.
It's LS7. It's an LS7.
All right. Bravo.
It's a bonus round.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
Oh, man.
All right. This is a true or false.
Okay.
And I hope with your manufacturing experience that this one comes a little easier than the more difficult trivia stations. True or false? Aluminum is always used as an alloy.
True.
True. Aluminum in its pure state is highly reactive.
Very reactive. Same thing with magnesium.
Yeah.
Like go boom?
In fact, I had a 1973 Saab Sonnet as an early project car that 18-year-olds should not own, but I don't know what that was. It was a fiberglass bodied steel pan car. But Saab went after lightweight. That car weighed 1,785 pounds. Okay?
Wow.
It had magnesium alloy wheels. And in the owner's manual, it talked about not using certain tools to put your lug nuts on because it could, spark the wheels. You're like, you've got that brakes right there.
Yeah.
Interesting things in the owner's manual from the 70s.
Dude, it's crazy.
That's
crazy. The guy who I do a lot of machining with, he was telling me a story when he was machining magnesium, and one chip came, and then the whole floor caught on fire. It literally across the whole floor.
I've heard of Jaguars back in the day, like the cars would catch fire or the wheels would catch fire and the whole cars would just up in smoke.
Yeah,
there it goes.
Yeah, so I haven't done a study on it, but I think the 4.2 intake manifold is made of some version of magnesium.
I believe you're right. I actually have one I can send you. We can figure it out.
Yeah.
Right on. I'll give you a couple minutes to plug your company and where people can reach out to you and anything you want to spit out to podcast land.
You can meet me
You
too.
can find me at S4 Race Wars.
I like it.
Yeah. So right now we're working on our website. Most of the updates are going to be over Instagram or Facebook. It's just Tweetler Performance. We're going to be I think we err on the side of transparency because we'd rather have people see the painstaking trouble we go through to make sure that it is a good product and that that we're definitely thinking of the end user. So if you guys want updates, you go there.
Awesome.
And
you have a YouTube channel?
Not yet. No, not yet.
Let me know if you want some help with that. I'll come through. I'll be your plug.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, perfect. But I want to get product going first, and then we'll start to do a lot of that stuff. You know what I mean? We've got a lot out to get these good products to the market. So I'm excited about. We'll do some videos on Facebook and stuff like that, and on Instagram.
Awesome.
But YouTube would be next for sure. 2022.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
It was it's been an absolute pleasure having you on this evening.
Yeah.
I've been wanting. I want to come up to Woodsward. I'm saying that wrong.
Woodward, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, when I come up there, you say you're in Detroit. Maybe I can come by, get a tour. We can go do some hood rat stuff together.
Absolutely.
Not blow any engines.
Yeah. No, Brandon Beck came over once and we let him curl the engine. It's super late.
Really?
Oh. I literally picked it up with these 3 fingers in a video and just lifted it like that. That's how light it is.
Bro, that's so awesome. That's so awesome.
Well, it was absolutely a pleasure having you. We will look forward. Maybe we can do an update, follow-up video, podcast interview, or whatever you want to call it.
Absolutely.
So, best.
Maybe we do one from the dyno?
I think I was actually just thinking that. So you guys should come up. We should do a follow-up maybe like when we get it on the dyno, and we can do kind of like a little interview of it, just doing pulls in the background and talking
100%.
about what it's doing.
100%. I am on board for that.
Love to travel, so that could probably fit in the plans rather nicely.
Yeah, I love it. Awesome.
All right, thanks, Reid.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye. Hey, Steve.
Hey, bud.
Oh.
This phone podcast thing is.
Didn't say it wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad. We'll get this other stuff sorted out.
No.
But,
Before we get too far, go ahead.
I emailed Reid several months ago, and I'm working really hard at my day job.
I know where this is going.
That's all.
Yep.
I'm working really hard at my day job because there's like a criteria I have to meet to get a certain bonus, and that certain bonus is about what one of those things costs, and so I'm working really hard.
No, I've already scribbled my note down. I know what I want for Christmas.
Right.
All I want for Christmas is a 4.2 intake manifold.
I know we always go back to the Wookiees stuff, but
it's a different community.
I just can't imagine what the turn in, how much better the turn in and everything would be if you just took 50 pounds out of the front of the B5, man.
Just unbolt the front clip and then drive it around.
Yeah.
It'd be about the same.
Dude, it's the future of Audi land is great. And dude, honestly, the development he's talking about with the 4.2 and the bolt-on blower stuff, that's a huge market because all those cars are newer than the B5s, the C5s, and the 2.7s. And a lot of times it's not necessarily the condition of the engine, but the wiring harnesses and the fuel lines, and the brakes, and the wear and tear on the car as a whole. You know as well as I, you can get a B7S4 was through 2008.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think.
So, I mean, yeah, they're 13 or 14 or 15 years old, but that's still 7 or 8 years newer than a B5.
Yep. And it's still supportable.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do. I hope I get to a point as a professional where I can dabble in that level of automotive expense.
No worries, we will. We will.
Let's be honest. I think the advertised price on a 3-liter 2.7 block is right around $9,000.
We didn't. Now that you say that, we never did actually ask him.
I'm not so sure that he's gotten to the final price. I mean, with inflation and stuff going on right now, cost of materials, I mean, obviously the development costs he's absorbing are significant.
Valid. I mean, he just flat out said he's got $85,000 in tooling, just tools. For those of you who are watching this, a tool, for instance, could be as simple as something as long as a number 2 pencil and as big around as it is, and depending on all it does is make sure a hole is straight and deburred. And I've bought reamers, $180, or tools. You know, and you need 15 of them or 30 of them for all different sizes. The little bits that go on your lathe, a set of 6 of those, depending on what they're made out of, easily $200. Easily. We're not even talking about CNC tools.
Dude, when he was talking about, he just mentioned it, the cost of the 3D printer. He was talking about the $60,000 one being on the cheap end and $250K. That is $250K is about the price of a CNC machine.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many CNC machines are out there, and I know that there's a lot of stuff that can be done with them. But if you get, I think, on a grand scale, if you can sell a 3D printer that is that capable, there's going to be much more of a market impact for a tool like that than a 5-axis CNC machine.
Well, a 3D print. Okay, so let's back up to this 3D printing technology. When I was at SEMA in 2019, okay, I'd seen in person.
You're going to SEMA this year.
That's the plan, Dan.
You know who you could interview at SEMA.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was wondering. He kept mentioning SEMA.
How his English is.
What?
You gotta ask Philip how his English is. The guy that has taken possession of the first Tweetler Billet block.
Yeah, because... Yeah, I remember hearing it, but why? Did I miss something? Did he say he was British?
No, he's from Germany.
Oh, I'm sorry. I feel like an idiot now. I'm sorry.
I think he's from Germany. Fairly certain. Brush up on your German. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Gasberger.
But
you remember what Gasberger means? Host.
No. Host. Yeah, you're right.
It means host.
All right, man.
All right, guys. Well, it's been an interesting show. Not just gonna let. What? Did we cover everything we were supposed to cover in this podcast? I mean, we did current events because we finally figured out your shit show on your end.
Yeah, you're right.
And then we just got off the phone. We've been doing one thing wrong. One major thing wrong. And we haven't been telling people what time they can find us. So, I guess I need to do an outro and make sure to tell everybody that they can find us every Friday. It's at 11:59 and 59 seconds. The algorithm is clicking the publish button for me. Friday morning, you can find these podcasts ready in your inbox for your morning or super morning or evening commutes. Would that be third shift?
Yo, if Friday exists, we're on the airwaves.
Is it technically airwaves? What are cellular waves? I mean, those are not air. Because that would be radio waves.
No, radio waves are radio waves. It's going through the air. It's going out through the air to your cell phone or to your car. However you are receiving the stream, it is through the air.
All right.
Well, be sure to follow Jack on Instagram at Rowdy Audi. And
make sure to follow Steve at S4 Racehorse. and
go check his YouTube channel for all the DIY stuff.
And go make sure you check over on Steve's S4 Racehorse site. S4R. Oh, shit, I can't plug that.
Yeah, you can though, because all of our event photos are still up. All of the upcoming event calendar is still up. You just can't buy stuff from us.
On that note, though, you can... I was going to say, you can come over to rowdyaudi.com and buy stuff.
Do it to it.
You can come over here, buy some stuff, and then all right. There's one thing I'm forgetting here, and I know I can't remember what it is off the top of my tongue.
That's all right, Jack. We'll call it a good night.
No.
They can all catch us next week.
Also, I remembered. Everything. Yeah. All the Tweetlers stuff will also be in the description of wherever this is being watched, viewed, or like other. And thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening. See you next Friday. Steve?
Bye, guys.
Bye. Peace. We're outie.